Brilliant speakers here today to exchange their thoughts with us, with all of us. And first of all, we're gonna have a little chat with Jeffrey Cohen. Jeff is Evangelist of Amazon Ads. He's probably the most popular Amazon and well-known Amazon Ads expert on the globe. He is a veteran in the industry. He started, I'm not actually sure if he started with Seller Labs in the Amazon ecosystem, but he's definitely one of the very early persons in this industry. He has both the high-level bird's eye view of the business, as well as he's still kind of very in-depth in the machine room of all the different opportunities, options that Amazon announces or has at the ad landscape. And we are very, very happy he's here with us. And Jeff, please join us here up front and let's talk about unBoxed.
Thank you. Hold on. Hey Siri, what did they say?
Subtitles are
Oh, I got it. He said Amazon Ads is awesome. Spend more money.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Translation
It's so
works.
easy. It's so easy.
Translation works.
Yeah, Jeff. So we just to reframe it a bit, we said it looked as if there are so many different new features, new opportunities announced and unboxed that it's kind of overwhelming. But if you take a step back, you see it's all about how can we make the full funnel more transparent, more better servable with Amazon Ads opportunities on the one hand, and on the other hand, it's all about simplifying the usability of all the different ad options in the Amazon DSP or sponsored ads. So make it easier for brands to utilize what's out there.
Yeah.
Did we see this right? Maybe you can share the Amazon view on that. So what does Amazon intend?
I can't just say yes.
You can.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. Thanks for having several of us from Amazon. I appreciate you guys coming out, and obviously we're excited for tomorrow as well. I think unBoxed was a really pivotal moment for Amazon Ads in the global marketplace and how we are approaching advertising. And the big theme from the event was really full funnel at scale for everybody. And what that comes down to is that Amazon has capabilities for big brands, small brands, large budgets, small budgets, and ways to think of Amazon beyond the commerce play, right? So you talked about like how long some of us have been in this space. Well, for a long time in this space, Amazon has always been seen as really this commerce play. How do I use the sponsored ads part of Amazon advertising to drive conversions for my sales? And in doing so, we all became very familiar with terms such as ACost and tacos, which are very specific measurements back to conversion-focused events. And as Amazon has built up their technology around middle and upper funnel advertising, we've had to evolve as brands to look at Amazon in a different way. And one of the ways that we have grown in the evolution of how we've looked at Amazon has also come from Amazon providing more data insights into what's happening with your advertising. And so probably 5 or so years ago, Amazon came out with Amazon Marketing Cloud, which was the beginning of this new measurement tool that gave you the ability to see full funnel advertising and to understand the impact that your ad has across that funnel. And as the consumer behavior has changed, right? Because we got to look at like what are the challenges that we see as advertisers. The consumer is changing the way that they're buying. They're on social media applications, they're seeing your ad and they're going right to buy. They're no longer going through long decision-making processes before they're making purchasing decisions. We're also finding that in some categories, the loyalty of a consumer to a brand is not as strong as it was before. So somebody is more open to trusting or trying a new brand. This all creates new opportunities for brands, but you have to be able to measure your advertising in new ways. And so if your brand is trying to grow and expand, you may want to look at a new data point like new to brand sales. I don't want to just see how many people are buying my products. I want to see how many new customers is this campaign driving for me. And what you're able to do in optimizing your full funnel advertising is really start to use these data points to identify campaigns that are taking different actions in the overall growth of your brand. Then when you start to put the scale that Amazon has, and we really have an unprecedented reach in terms of the number of shoppers that you can access, brands are able to true brand building on not just Amazon.com, but on the Amazon properties. So, you know, if I asked how many of you have watched a Prime Video movie in the last, you know, month, how many? Got to raise hands? Right. So, and how many of you have listened to a podcast that maybe was made by Wondery? Or just say, are you listening to podcasts in general? And do you have an Alexa device at home? And do you interact with like watching live sports with Amazon, right? So there's shop at a Whole Foods, go to an Amazon grocery store. All these ways are ways to interact with Amazon today that we didn't have a number of years. And so the Amazon full funnel offering even extends for brands who want to drive people back to their own site. So using Amazon traffic to drive people back to your own website. So now you can start to look at the data and say, do I want this customer to buy from me on Amazon, or do I want this customer to come back to my D2C site? Or even if you're not selling, right? So on Amazon, you'll see tomorrow at unBoxed that we'll have a brand on stage who's selling cars, and they're using Amazon as the way to drive leads into their dealerships. And so it's really about thinking of Amazon in this new way that was what we were trying to really drive home at unBoxed, with measurable results, right? And I think that's something as marketers and as brand owners that we all want to think about, which is how do we measure the impact that our advertising is having?
What I cannot stress enough is that we have been talking about full funnel for decades. It feels like for decades. And what I must say and cannot stress enough is that Amazon is really the first and only who are able to really, across this whole funnel, measure the real impact of each of this touch point, and is able to say, okay, how do these touch points influence my purchase or not? And beginning with a TV ad. And this is really unique, and I cannot stress enough how awesome this is, and how this is.
But even more so is that, so not only can we do that, but we can also make it to where a brand who didn't have the budget for television before can now run television ads, right? And so the democratization that's occurring that Amazon is really trying to drive is around creative. It's around ad properties and ad placements, as well as the measurement that occurs. And all of that is what makes it really exciting for brands to be able to test new things. And so if you're a brand and you're looking to get into advertising on television, you know, you can start with a small budget. You can start with Fire TV or running video ads on the DSP to see how those are doing. And then as you're seeing the success and as you're seeing the audiences and you want to get more audiences to see, then you can start to run higher up video ads or do guaranteed buys where you're sponsoring a new video series. But you're building yourself to get there, right? You don't have to just take a leap of faith.
I think that's super interesting what you said, that it's kind of democratizing advertising on Amazon. So it puts small brands on eye level with big brands, because suddenly they can run Prime Video ads in high quality inventory environments. So that's awesome. At the same time, it's the whole ecosystem, advertising is getting more and more sophisticated. And it takes more brain power to master this, right? So it's actually giving big brands more and more options, and it's enabling small brands to, as I said, stay on top with the big brands and keep up on this eye level.
Yeah, and I mean for large brands, right? For like large enterprise brands, even brands that we just interact with on a daily basis, they've always been spending this money on just medium that's changing. right? So linear TV is shifting towards streaming TV. And in 2023, for the first time, the two lines crossed. So streaming TV is growing in its viewership and linear TV is declining. And so this year, the first time, streaming TV will actually have more viewers than linear TV. But what's really exciting, there's two things about that that's exciting. First is that when you aggregate the total number between linear TV and streaming TV, it's larger than the height of linear TV, which means it's reaching a larger audience. The other thing that we're finding through our data is that it's incremental. So the people that are moving to streaming TV are not the people who used to be watching linear TV. And we saw this this was pretty evident with Thursday Night Football in the U.S. Sorry, Thursday Night Football, not football. And what we found was that the demographic and the overlap of the users who were watching Thursday Night Football weren't watching on linear TV. So it was bringing in a whole new audience for the advertiser to be able to advertise to. And we're seeing that over and over again within the data that we have, is that Amazon is not is actually bringing in incremental audiences to who you had before, allowing you to reach new people, which is ultimately, as brands and marketers, what we want to be doing.
Right. Yeah. Speaking about incrementality, this is offers so many options right now. So all this detailed targeting and the capability of really analyzing this and the impact, running small tests on small specific audience groups. This is awesome, but also puts a lot of pressure on the brands and the advertisers, because now they are able to do this, right? So this is an opportunity for a lot of brands out there to really dive into and seize this opportunity.
Right. Says the PhD in incrementality.
Yes.
Right. I learned that about him. I've known this guy for a long time, but I never knew that he had a PhD in that. I think that the thing to think about as a brand is that all of these terms can be really confusing, right? Interoperability, incrementality, and all these data points can be really confusing. So let's break it down to its simplest form. Data points are a mechanism for you to measure your success and then identify how it's either improving or declining based on the adjusted action that you take. And so what I always tell people is ROAS, nobody really knows what the difference between a 3.5 and a 3.7 ROAS is, but they know that 3.7 is directionally better than 3.5, right? And so as marketers, what we want to really be thinking about is directional signals that data and measurement is giving us. Because, and this goes back to my early days, if I date myself, in doing email marketing, and you would look at two different email systems, and one would give you an open rate and one would give you a click rate, and it would be different than the other open rate and click rate, and you're like, wait a minute. And it doesn't really matter what that open rate and click rate is. What matters is that you've made a change to your advertising or to your email, and did that open rate or click rate get better or worse? And so as marketers, the successful brands that are out there are really using this test and learn mentality. And with the test and learn mentality, if you think back, I don't know what grade you guys taught this in Germany, but in the States, it was taught in junior high, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. You're taught the scientific methodology, right? That you have a hypothesis, and then you set a control group, and then you run your test, and then you measure your test versus your control group, and you figure out whether your hypothesis was right or wrong. It's a basic scientific method. And I think that's what the good advertisers are doing in how they're thinking of advertising, is they're constantly testing and running new ads. And they're also going back to test things that they knew worked or didn't work 2 or 3 years ago. Because one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of brands make is that they test something, it doesn't work, and then they move on, and they never come back to retest it. Because your brand is maturing, your product is maturing, and the market's maturing. And therefore, something take Amazon brand stores, right? A free product from Amazon ads. 3 years ago, it may have not been very mature in the German market in terms of how shoppers were interacting with the brand store. And so you may, as a brand, have not been fully investing into the brand store and changing your content and building out your navigation and all the things you can be doing, because we all know there are hundreds of things you can be doing to drive traffic and discoverability on Amazon. Well, as that market here has matured, and as it's matured in other regions as well, you may want to go back and relook at that. Because the shopper and the shopper behavior is changing. The way ads are running is changing. The way that people click on a brand ad and can go directly to your store has changed. And so all these things require you as an agency or you as a brand to be rethinking about things. And you can't just, advertising is not a set it and forget it type of process. And I think that's what makes it fun and exciting.
Absolutely. Jeff, if we take a look at the announcement at unBoxed and you consider what you just said, so what are the 2 or 3 major features or products where you said, okay, if as a brand manager or if as a marketing director, if you would focus on the 2, 3 things, what would it be? Yeah, so
probably the 2 that I'm most excited about, first is our new AI creative capabilities. And what Amazon has done over the last year really led up to the announcement this year. So last year we announced static image AI, which allowed you to put in a product ASIN and get back lifestyle images. And then about September, we announced the ability to add live image, which takes think of it like you're trying to sell a coffee mug, and your lifestyle image has the coffee mug on a balcony outside the beach. Static image just has that beach. Live image has the waves on the beach crashing and steam rising from the coffee, right? It just creates a little bit more engagement with the audience. They also announced video. So Amazon can go from just having your ASIN to building a full video for your ad. So that's allowing you to start testing Amazon ad videos, put videos into your product detail page, put videos into your brand store. They announced audio ads. So you can now take your ASIN and build out a full audio ad, including the script and the voice for a full production of a 15, 30, or 60-second audio ad. So if you wanted to test audio ads, you no longer need to have a whole resource for doing that. And then we put it all together into a creative studio library. And what that does is it really allows we'll start with the small business who doesn't have any creative resources. You can start from nothing and scale all the way up to everything we just talked about. And if you're the enterprise brand and you have large production capabilities and you've already made videos, you can actually bring those videos into the creative studio, and our studio will actually break it apart into all the different pieces that you need. And then it has a lot of other functionality. So like if your photo is like a 4x4, but the ad requires a 4x6, it'll add it and stretch it to a 4x6 and add in using AI, what it needs on the sides for it to look natural and normal. And so a lot of those capabilities cost time, they cost money, and they were difficult to scale across your catalog of products. And so now that's all been democratized. Yeah. So that's one that I've been really excited about. I think the other one, I know you're going to kind of talk a little bit about DSP. So I'll share the other one is around some of the updates and features that came around Amazon Marketing Cloud. First is that Amazon Marketing Cloud you used to have to be on the DSP to access Amazon Marketing Cloud, and now anyone on Amazon Advertising can access it. So you can now get an understanding of your funnel and where your customers are and what impact they're having. And then you can create, within AMC, you can create audiences based on the behavior of your customers. And you can bring in your first party data, so data that you have from your own CRM to make those signals even stronger. And then you can actually use those as bid boosting within your sponsored ads, which is a really exciting way to be able to say, I want to find audiences or lookalike audiences who have a propensity to buy from me, and I want to increase my bid on sponsored ad campaigns for those. So those are the two I'm probably the most excited about. They're the ones that are getting a lot of the buzz. But we also have, Performance Plus and a revamp of the whole DSP and other capabilities. I think we had 18 different announcements that occurred at the show. So I don't want to take anything away from any of them. But
you love them all.
I don't want us to be here all night. You're asking me who's my favorite child, right?
If I may follow up on your second favorite child, the AMC or everything that's run. Again, I have the feeling it's also becoming a bit easier for brands to leverage typical reports of the AMC, like the customer journey of the last 60 days, for example, or also this multi-touch attribution model in a way that I can use it from my ad console and don't have to send any SQL queries to AMC. At the same time, AMC is so capable, it's so powerful. We always say it's actually turning media costs into measurable marketing investments because you really can analyze what it all impacts in the end. But how do you see this kind of split of the AMC? So for what audience, for what user group is actually the simplified way, and what is for the more sophisticated AMC users?
Yeah, so anybody use like a ChatGPT-esque tool? I know there's so many of them that are out there today. Yes? Right. So one of the challenges of any of those tools is that you have to give it the right prompt, right? So all of us in this room could be trying to get something out of a system like that, but if we don't give it the right prompt, we will all get different answers, right? And so some of us will give very sophisticated prompts and some of us will give very simple prompts. AMC somewhat works in a similar way in that it has all of this aggregated data from either your first-party signals or from your Amazon sales, and you have to know what questions to ask it. And so sophisticated brands who have, or agencies who have maybe the larger wherewithal of knowing what questions to ask are able to write SQL queries to get more information out of AMC. But that's a more complicated way of doing things. And so to make AMC more available to everybody, we've created a query library which allows you to have some of the preset reports that you need to be able to run your business. And so the balance really becomes, how do you use the query library to kind of get started in a no-code type of fashion, but also remembering that it's a really powerful tool and therefore it can answer other questions that you have. And so I see AMC really having two really high values for a brand. One is there's a lot of questions as a marketer and as a brand owner that you can be asking AMC to understand what does your ideal customer profile look like? And maybe it's different than what you had originally thought and intended. Then there's a whole bunch of capabilities also around how to use that AMC to drive audience creation and ad measurement, right? So one that we were talking about earlier is around frequency and frequency caps. And there's you probably could explain this much better than me from a scientific, but I'll give you kind of the layman's version of this. When you're running a DSP ad, there's an optimal number of times to show an ad to determine whether someone's going to buy or not buy. Within AMC, you can start to see when customers saw my ad, X number of times they converted with this percentage and Y number of times they converted this percentage. And that starts to give you some understanding that once a customer has seen your ad so many times, they're not going to buy, right? Because not every customer is really a shopper for your product. And so as you're able to start to make those tweaks, you're really able to dial in your campaigns to be a lot tighter towards the customers who have a higher propensity to buy. And ultimately, as shoppers or as brands, we want to do two things. We want to expand the reach and reach more people, and we want to optimize the cost, right? Because we don't have unlimited budgets, and so we want to do that in an optimal way. And so AMC really starts to let you do that and start to see how that all comes together. Now, as brands, when you bring in the first-party signals, and everything's done in a very privacy-safe way, meaning that you're not telling us who your customers are. We're just able to, using a hash system, we're able to match up your customers with our customers, and then give enhanced aggregated data. And I think that's really what becomes amazing to see, that we can actually see when you're running ads on Amazon, what is it doing for your website? How is it driving traffic for your website? Because there's a bleed over effect, and we have all been able to infer this bleed over effect in the past, right? We know that if we run ads on certain social media sites, our sales spike on Amazon, but they're also spiking on your website. And so AMC is able to start helping to triangulate how a lot of that works.
You just mentioned that this connection to social media, to external websites. One of the announcements of unBoxed was about the data manager, the ad data manager, and that it makes it easier to leverage first-party data across the different ad products. Can you elaborate a bit on that? Because I think this is one of the ambitions, to make it easy as possible to leverage first-party data, right?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to describe that is that, for lack of a better term, uploading your data to get it into AMC hasn't been the easiest. And so that tool is really designed to make it a lot easier and more efficient to get your first-party data, and then to make that data available across all of the tools that Amazon has, however you want to use that, and to keep that privacy safe mechanism in place as your data comes in, and then in all the places that it goes, right? Because as brands, and this is globally, right, there's a lot of data privacy laws that exist, and you guys as a brand need to ensure that you're matching the privacy laws, and we as Amazon need to make sure that we're following the privacy laws. And so the data manager kind of helps you in that data management across the system, and makes it easier to upload it from your third party or your first party data system into ours.
Yes. Yeah, an interesting development, and I'm really impressed when we look at the development in the AI space, specifically on Amazon and Amazon Ads. How this developed in the past 12 months.
Yeah.
You said, okay, we started with the image, the static image, and now 12 months later we can create live videos, live images, and now let's think ahead.
Let's think ahead. Well, the first thing that I'll say is, AI did not start at Amazon 12 months ago, right? Amazon advertising at its core has been driven off of AI since it was originally designed. And if you think about sponsored products, right, which is a product we're probably all very familiar with, it's always been driven off of some AI, which is a large language model that is helping it optimize into a bid and to a sale. Because ultimately Amazon, and I don't know the algorithm, but ultimately Amazon wants a positive customer experience. And so we want to show an ad that gives a customer the opportunity to buy a product and be happy. And when that happens, we know that's a positive signal. And so AI has really been driving advertising on Amazon for a long time. Where's that going to go? It's a great question, and I don't know that I know the answer, but I know that I'm excited for it. And the reason I say that is that I was on stage with our VP of creative, who really owns the whole channel of designing these creative products. And what he said was that the product will only get better from today. And so if you think about all of the AI tools that are out there that you're interacting with in some way, shape, or form, even the one that's in your pocket in your phone, its ability to do simple things like translation is significantly better today than it was a few years ago. And so I think that when we look to the future with Amazon, specifically in advertising, I would think of like how the evolution is going to occur as opposed to the revolution, right? I think we will look back and we will see how all of this has been revolutionary in what we've done, continuing to bring down costs, continuing to make things more available, and continuing to make it easier to scale. That will be the revolution that all of these will drive. But the evolution is that those images are going to get better. The recommendations are going to get better. The ability for the system to make predictions for you are going to get better, right? Because that's just naturally how all of these models are working right now. And on the retail side, the consumer behavior is going to continue to change, right? So Rufus, which is Amazon's AI tool, was released, I think, a little over a year ago. And then it was kind of like officially released this summer, right? It was kind of a soft release around the holidays last year, and I think it was officially released right before Prime Day. And if you just look at the results of asking it a question, it's gotten much better at giving you answers, right? And I at Amazon, we're vocally self-critical, and I remember our industry, and we've got a lot of people who like to find out what doesn't work. And so when Rufus first came out, they were asking it all these questions, and then saying like, well, who would want this result, and why would this result? And now I'm seeing a lot of people going, well, wait a minute, it's now giving me really good results. It's understanding what behavior is that I'm looking for. It's providing me good content to back up the results that it's giving. And so I think that's the evolution that we're continuing to see, that AI gets smarter, right? And that's the promise of it that we're all excited about. And so I think we'll continue to see developments around things that are solving for more problems, but I also think we're just going to see it get better and better and better at what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, awesome. Maybe another take on this. With AI making things easier and more accessible, we are solving so many problems for everybody now, and raise the bar and the standards in the industry, so that if you want to differentiate and have an edge, you need to find your edge somewhere else now. So this is interesting. Yeah,
I think that it's a great concept and a great reminder. Everything starts with a good product. And I always try to remind people of that when I do public speaking, is that none of these things drive sales. Good products drive sales. These things are helping you reach more audiences, be more effective in your messaging. And so continuing to start with the basics of retail readiness are really critical and important, right? Which are having your products on the shelf, having the right titles and descriptions. But what AI is going to allow us to do is, and they tease this at Amazon Accelerate, what AI is going to do is that if the search knows that you're looking for something, it will actually give you a title that helps describe your product based on what the user is searching for. And I think that is very interesting, and obviously it's going to require some iterations over time. But again, like, what's the end behavior that we want, right? We want shoppers to come to Amazon. We want them to find what they're looking for and be happy with their purchase. And that's ultimately what the AI needs to be trained to do, because that's what's going to get you as a brand to make a higher investment in doing more advertising. And ultimately, that's what we have to always be reminded of, that the customer experience is the most important part of this. And I think as a brand, if you remember that, right, that the customer experience is the most important part, and that comes down to your product, your design, your value proposition, all of those things make a big play. So we talked about like the changing demographics that are happening in like the shopper community. Well, the younger Gen Z shopper is way more socially conscious in how they're shopping today than my generation, or even an older generation than me. And so again, as a brand, this is things like, how do you reduce packaging? How do you reduce waste? I was speaking to a shampoo company, and they moved to all of their products to recyclable bottles, because their product wasn't recyclable, and they wanted to be more eco-friendly to tap into that audience that's looking for those things. So some of those are looking in trends that are happening within your industry, within your vertical and your category, and some of those are looking at the trends that are happening on Amazon. And those are just things to kind of keep in mind as your brand is building.
That's cool.
I could keep on talking all night, but I think we have to wrap it up now. So my takeaway is, or maybe for everybody, is, Jeff, AI is one big thing, others AMC. So those are the two takeaways that everybody should double down on. But actually, you love all your 18 child, so also the other topics are relevant, of course.
Well, I'll change it in a slightly different way. Each of you in the room has something that is important to you and your business and what will take your business to the next level. And so you should figure out what the 2 or 3 are that are important to you. And this is really advice I give at the end of any trade show, which is that even tomorrow, you're going to be inundated with a lot of updates and things that are exciting. But where is your business? Where is your brand? And what can you take as an action that will help your brand now? And then what are those 2 or 3 things that you need to put on your notes to remind you for later? Right? Because you don't want to let those go, but they're not things you can do today. And then the other thing that I would recommend is that, that's where an agency and a tech provider really become valuable, and you as a brand communicating to them what you're looking for and what challenges you're having so they can help you overcome them or show them to you if there's something that you don't fully understand. So see, I got away from picking a favorite child.
Well done.
And went back to all of my children getting love.
Actually, famous last words. Thanks, Jeff. Famous last words, because this is an exclusive round. Nothing that's in this room will leave this room.
That's right. Never does.
Never does. And so, looking 12 months ahead, or maybe 11 months next. You said it's going to be in November. So 12 months ahead. Next unBoxed. Will it be like a big bang, Prime Video ads the second, some really huge launch, or is it more like evolving from what we see now?
Well, that's a really great question, because there were big bangs that were announced this year, and
Absolutely.
Right, and Amazon Prime Video ads were actually announced the year before, right? And so I think you're going to keep seeing Amazon raise the bar, and I think that we at Amazon are constantly thinking about what else do our advertisers need and how can we help them. And again, I think the DSP and a lot of the changes around the DSP were a really big pain point for a lot of agencies and brands in managing the DSP. They didn't have all the data that they needed to be able to make the right decisions, or it was a very cumbersome process. And so some could argue that it was, a huge announcement that Amazon made around the DSP. And some can say, well, we're glad they finally made those updates, right? And so I think that as you start to look to the future and kind of what's next, I think that you'll have both of those things, right? I know that at unBoxed this year, everybody was excited around the AI capabilities when they were announced. Even the ones that were announced 2 or 3 weeks prior, for people that hadn't heard them, for them to hear them. People were on the edge of their seats for those announcements. And I think that Amazon wants to continue to raise that bar, wants to continue to provide for our brands and advertisers and provide for that customer experience. So I would hope that it's a big bang excitement, and time will tell.
The one way or the other,
yes.
big things will come. Jeff, thanks so much
Thank you.
for being with us and sharing your thoughts.